Let's not add no editing to it. Alright, I guess it caught 8 seconds. Anyway, but that's alright. What's a good job, Brate Podcast? Back at it again. Back in the same library, same room, oddly enough, same cast, same crew. Got my bro Dimitri with me again.
What's up? How y'all doing?
Yeah. So we back at it again. We got a packed lineup. A little delayed, had some technical difficulties, wardrobe malfunctions. Things happen, just life, everything wanting to be chaotic, but nonetheless, the show must go on. So we got a pretty packed lineup of topics. I'll be doing a brief stint with music. I was given a good idea. I'll see if I have to do some research on it because it's possible. I may give you a snippet of a couple of this artist, like a hit song from an artist that we do as the artist spotlight, and then just break down our other topics. So I have a few tech topics, and as you know, since I got the sports fiend himself on this topic, we're gonna go into these sports shots. So first topic, and I'll ask you because I know we always do this because I'm like the old school guy with the music scene. So have you heard of Jarreau before I mentioned him as today's artist spotlight?
To be honest, I have not. I listened to some of his songs though previously.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So so out of his music, like, and what you've listened to so far, like, what were some songs that stood out that you may remember?
We're in This Love Together, one of his bigger songs.
Yeah. Okay.
And Morning as well too.
Okay.
I like both of those. He has like a little soothing type feel, like jazz, soul.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly, and that's the key element. So Jarreau was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That was back in March 12th of 1940. His big single, as you mentioned, was "We're in This Love Together." A couple of singles he did was he did "Breezin'," which was a song with he did a lot of collaborations, but most of his hit singles he did "Boogie Down," "All I Need," and I remember some of these songs because I had to go back and look at videos, and I posted some when everything happened. It's a reason I put him as the artist spotlight, which I don't know if Dimitri knew this or not. Did you know
he passed away
last
week?
Yes. Yeah, and it was oddly enough on the same day as the Grammys, because he was initially looking to make an announcement of retiring from the music industry.
He actually retired 2 days before he passed away.
Yeah. So for that to happen in that time manner, and then it was like he really just kind of was like, I'm cutting down on touring. Mm-hmm. I can't do this. My body is not allowing me to make this happen. He shut it down, and then.
Speaking of the Grammys, he actually is the only vocalist to win a Grammy Award in 3 different categories, being jazz, pop, and R&B.
All right, yeah, and that's valid facts. And coincidence of him doing jazz, one artist that he collaborated with very frequently was George Benson. And if you have a chance, and to the listeners as well, if you haven't already, check out some George Benson. George Benson was a good artist. One of George Benson's singles he did was "Rhythm of the Night." "Give Me the Night," not "Rhythm of the Night." This is way off. He was also known for a type of singing that was like a scat singing, like do ba ba da ba da, which was like that's where the whole jazz part comes into play too for him. So Al Jarreau, like I said, passed away on February 12th, same day as the Grammys. It was oddly enough in LA. Truth be told, I am an anti-music award show watcher.
Okay.
I'm a music fan, and I've told people this, and I actually wrote a blog recently about it, in the fact that I love listening to music, but for whatever reason, award shows I have and it's a love-hate thing because it's like they already have who they want to win those when it's already set up. So, yeah.
Popularity contest, kind of.
Popularity. That's the best way to describe it. So, moving away from somewhat of a minor popularity story to a more popular company. Oddly enough, most people may know I have Sprint as my phone service. Who's your service through?
I've been struggling with Verizon,
Okay.
And those extra fees for overgoing your data plan,
Okay, so
$15 a gigabyte.
So you were fighting the data struggle. Is that what that is?
I was fighting the data struggle.
Okay.
I was actually about to switch.
So you luckily didn't make the switch as of the third. Did you actually get on with the unlimited plan that they have now?
Yeah, I did get on the unlimited plan. Took about 30 minutes to get somebody on the phone, but you got to switch it up though.
Customer service 101. Yeah, so I think we may have mentioned in the last podcast. Like I said, we won't name companies, but we mainly deal with customer service, and a lot of companies who you deal with customer service wise can be challenging. Mm-hmm. Like I said, Sprint, I've gone through it with them as far as their customer service battles and struggles. But yeah, Verizon has done the unthinkable. They went unlimited. So
then they had like a little rule of you reach like 22 gigabytes, mm-hmm. then you may be throttled depending on if there's congestion on the.
Yeah, it's like a fight. It's almost like a fight of term, and I don't want to use that term because then we going into work mode. But it's almost like a fight of saying you can use your data, but just don't be caught in the data trap. I guess is like the best way to put it. I'm not sure how to like. Companies always do this data rule where they're like, you're able to use unlimited data, but we're going to limit how much data you use, because if you use too much data, then we're going to push how much full data you receive as far as your service. You know what I mean?
They said, it'll possibly like delay you for like maybe a couple to an hour, a couple seconds to an hour or something like that, depending on how long the congestion lasts. So
said long is, and I like how they use a lot of terms. They say this may result in slightly slower download speeds for a period of time. Maybe as long as stopping at a traffic light, or as long as being caught in rush hour traffic.
I feel like they're covering their bases, kind of.
Yeah, that's the way of saying, hey, we know at this point of the day, this is when everybody uses their phone. Because if you think about it realistically, and I put this as a sidebar, Wi-Fi is your best friend when it comes to technology, and when it comes to cell phones and smartphones and tablets and even our laptops here. Like, at one time, we're in a library. The room we're in has like 2 of these little ports that a lot of kids would be like, what is this port for? But in reality, it's actually used to, at one time, you had to actually connect a little cable from your laptop to the wall and then get internet. Well, now those days have like since gone, and now you can basically go wireless and walk around with your device and pick up service at any time. There are pros and cons to that, of course, because if you're on somebody else's network, you can't just go willy-nilly looking all over the place trying to find stuff. So, yeah, Verizon, if you do have that conflict, and I mentioned all that to say, like, if you do run into conflicts or chaos with the Verizon data, just hop on the Wi-Fi, piggyback on the Wi-Fi, become friends with people who have Wi-Fi. Get their code.
Where this actually helps though too is I had a scenario probably like a year ago when I took a trip to like California. I was there for a couple of weeks.
Right.
The place I was staying at didn't have Wi-Fi.
Ooh.
So my bill that month was pretty high.
Pretty heavy. Because you said the spike at that time. Now what was the cap then? Was it 22 or was it 15?
I was on I think it was a 10 gigabyte.
Yeah. Plan. Okay.
And each gigabyte after that's $15.
Wow.
So
see, that's just why anytime a service comes out, I need to hear unlimited, and I'm in. And it's so coincidental because thanks to Verizon doing this, the other big companies are trying to step in and do similar deals to keep their consumers, such as T-Mobile, Sprint. Like I said, I have Sprint. You come out with the sacrifice of paying a lot, but Sprint has come a long way with customer service. I'll admit that, and me saying that is a long haul because I know I have my adamant, angry moments about Sprint, but that's just how it goes sometimes. But yeah, I wanted to throw that in. It's because it was a unique story because it was like, all right, Verizon got their little plan coming in, and I'm always spending time kind of looking at Engadget and seeing what's going on. So to get that information about Verizon is pretty huge.
Yeah.
So jumping away from and this kind of segueing still into the techie world, and I've been forced to lead, but I'm leading for good reason because this is we're kind of beating a dead horse, but we're beating a dead horse for a good reason. Last week we talked about the Beats X and how great they are and the challenges of using them and how they work with the W1 chip. The main reason, because Dimitri and I actually talked about this, because he was like, well, why are we, what's the segue and how we talking about it? So this is kind of going to be story time. So I guess it's kind of like, let's sit down and have a story. So my twin, I talked about her last week, I talked about her on last week's podcast, as far as like with us and technology talk and stuff like that. We both own a pair of what they call the Power Beats, which have a better battery life, but for how they fit, there's style of earbuds, and I'll explain it. So you'll probably be able to understand this pretty good. There's what they call over ear and then there's, of course, your in-ear. Like right now, with me listening to the podcast while I'm talking and Dimitri's talking, I'm able to hear because I have not Beats, just some little Rite Aid headphones, but they're in-ear because they just literally sit in your ear, nothing's there, it's just kind of there on blind faith. Apple, when they made their earbuds, their generic earbuds have always been in-ear. Even before the new ones that they have now, they always stuck to in-ear. So Beats, sticking to the Apple theme, has the Beats X, which goes with the in-ear option, which works good for working out if you're doing a lot of active running. And in her case, and I'm telling this story for that reason because in her case, she wears glasses. So if you're, let's say you're at Gold's Gym, American Family, or whatever workout facility you go to in your neighborhood, if you're having to do a lot of work, they could fall out. And then it's a little, what they call it's a wing. It's a small little piece, and you just you'll sit it on the earbud, and it sits right in your ear, and it doesn't go anywhere. So having that feature was a big deal and a big factor. Like she said, it's not like it doesn't seem like it's a lot, but little things like that make a big difference. And then the added bonus is the connection for the Power Beats is the micro cable. And I think we might have mentioned this last week, is the micro USB, whereas with the Beats X, it's just like the iPhone. So she has an iPhone, and it uses that same lightning cable.
How does she say the bases and like the quality of it? For the
so this is where we both had these conversations because me and her are like music snobs to a degree, but it's not like you kind of almost know what you're getting. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to small earbuds, and this is anybody who learns this, small earbuds, you're not going to go into it expecting to get boom, boom, bam, bam, bass. Beats fools people into thinking. And then she may disagree because for her it might not be her to harm, but Beats is not expected to give like heavy sound. A lot of people, companies like JBL, some companies, Sony, they're usually pretty good for those. Beats is mainly, it's the name first, and then it's like as long as you're getting a form of sound. Like most times it's like if it's the treble or the bass that you prefer, usually most people go for the treble. In that case, they're just trying to get their actual sound. But bass-wise, it's a low bass because of the type of headphones that it is.
Okay.
So, yeah. So next time when you listen to your music, just think about whether those earbuds can stay in for a long period of time, or think about those Apple AirPods that people have been worrying about losing. So those are my music and techie topics. I have a feeling next week, and I'm telling Dimitri in advance because like I said, we kind of collab on getting these prep. I'm gonna probably throw a monkey wrench because I've been doing like cell phone stuff for a while. I'm probably gonna start getting back into my gaming stuff because I've been kind of quiet about it. So just be on the lookout for that because we talk gaming talk all day, even though we're on two separate sides of the land. But it's okay because I know you are Mr. PS4 and I'm Xbox. But at the end of the day, you're still getting your gaming fix one way or the other. So. We're gonna roll into a bidding farewell to Victor Cruz and Rashad Jennings, who both were let go by the Giants. And it's odd enough that the story dropped on the source that I have from Newsday on Valentine's Day at 2 a.m. Go ahead. I want to hear your input on this because
at the end of the day, like the NFL, it's still like a business. So they just did it to like get more money. Essentially, that's what they did it for.
Yeah.
But the Victor Cruz story itself was like a good story,
It was a feel-good story.
Yeah, definitely. Because undrafted coming into the NFL, he actually had trouble in college as well too at UMass.
Right.
He ended up doing well there. Yeah. Being undrafted going to the NFL. Mm-hmm. His first year actually playing was the year the Giants actually won the Super Bowl.
Right.
Ends up with 1,500 yards, which is outstanding for an undrafted.
For a wide receiver, period.
His first 3 seasons ended up like 3,000 yards.
Yeah.
Like 23 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. But then the following 3 seasons, he fell off a little bit more. Injuries hurt him too.
Yeah, because if you're not on the field, you think the average football season is 16 games.
Yeah.
Every season you play in 16 games. If you're not on the field for at least 8 of them, and obviously at least half of the season, it's not going to go well. They work on trying to negotiate contracts immediately, but on the other side of it, even though he's getting let go, and also Rashad Jennings, any team can always you have a good backup or second go-to wide receiver on their lineup.
Yeah, he could have a resurgence somewhere else. Somewhere else that better fit him. There they had younger people like Sterling Shepard on the come up, and at running back they got Paul Perkins out of UCLA on the come up as well too. Like Rashad Jennings was the lowest average yards per rush on their team, so it was just better for them to move on. Yeah, it was just time. It literally was the nicest way of saying we appreciate all that's been going on, but it's time for us to turn the page. So speaking of UCLA, so fun fact, like I said, me and Dimitri work together most times. Usually when I always saw him, he always had on the and he still wears it to this day most of the time. Is the UCLA hoodie? So I think I wore it yesterday.
Yes. And it is what it is. So we March. College basketball is doing something that's a little evident, but it's a little normal. But it's kind of new, if that makes sense. Trying to catch up to like the football side, where they release the rankings, I believe, a couple weeks before playoffs start. Because what they used to do, and they've done it the last few years, they used to do what's called first four in. They would do last four out. Next four out, next four in, or they broke it down very thorough. Yeah, the bubble setup. Mm-hmm. So I think the bottom part of it, they're really not too concerned about because that's going to fluctuate with time. Now these are as of last Saturday. It was kind of crazy because right when we did the podcast, I was like, I want to add this, but we got so much stuff to talk about. But they did do a release of the bracket preview as of February the 11th, which, like I said, was last Saturday. And they have listed, and I'm going to say this because I talked, Dimitri and I talked about this because like I said, we have sports talks. Anytime if we both get off, catch each other at the right time, our 15s will hit to the point where it's like, all right, I got to talk to you about this because I know you'll understand this story. Gonzaga right now is undefeated, but they're not the overall number one seed. I feel like that's fair. Just due to who they've played. You could play more people out of conference, some major conferences. They still, even though they have in conference against good teams, they still play out of conference better teams than Gonzaga does. Right. It's funny because I think two teams in the top four, Baylor and Kansas, actually played today. Number 2 and number 3. Right. Kansas actually won by 2. Wow. So it's kind of it's fitting for because it's based on that storyline, you can't really move Baylor because Baylor's been playing pretty solid basketball. Yeah. Especially because it's not a tough conference, but it is. The Big 12 is a unique storyline with college hoops. And the only reason I say that is because you got Kansas, you got Baylor, you got Oklahoma, you don't know when they're going to show up. You got Oklahoma State that has their moments. And then you got everybody, and you got West Virginia who's in there. Because, remember, West Virginia went through what you call a realignment. So it just becomes this downward spiral. The reason I brought up UCLA, of course, is because they're number 4 right now. But that can switch because they're 4 seed as far as bracket wise, but they're 15 overall on the brackets. None of you was wait, they're not 15, they're 4. You gave me that look just now, they're not 4. Yeah, they're 15 overall, but they're a 4 seed based on the brackets and how they have them paired. Our squad. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go first. With these rankings though, it's. I think there's so much parity in college, so it's not really not all 4 number 1 seeds are going to make it to the Final Four. That's not very rare. Yeah, so I feel like this is going to be an interesting March Madness to say the least. Yes, and I think Virginia took a loss this past week. Yeah. Okay. Before I talk about Kentucky, because obviously we can't go by what we don't see, but looking at if you have been keeping up with college hoops or keeping an eye on squads, who would you think might be a Cinderella team this early on? if you had to take a factor. Now, if it's a blind shot, we can make this. We can carry this in the next week because I'm throwing it. This is like let's throw the wild card without like. Okay, I gave him a question because of course we don't have a tab for it, but just curious.
That's going to be hard because usually a Cinderella team is somebody who just comes out of nowhere, so that would be a little bit more difficult. I'd say somebody who's going to be like on the lower.
What do you think it's going to be? So, do you think it's going to more so? Do you have a good projection of any mid majors? Do you think a lot of mid majors are going to make a lot of noise this year? I guess that's a better. I'll ask it like that then.
Yeah, I think so because if you've seen it, there's been a lot of top 10 teams to lose to like unranked teams and things of that nature.
Right.
So yeah, I see. Because like I said, there's a lot of parity this year, so I think there's going to be a lot of different teams that are going to show up. It depends on matchups, really.
Yeah, that's true.
That's how it always is. Usually with these tournaments, it depends on matchups.
This is true.
I think it also depends on like the guards you actually have too. Usually with March Madness, it's the guards that generally win March Madness. Like, if you go back in time, like, it just shows like
the
what that and veterans too. So I feel like Villanova will have a good shot. Like Kansas too. Like if you look at a couple of top teams, I also like UCLA, as you said them earlier.
Yeah, because
Lonzo Ball just finds a way to win, and they just have a nice team that can score with anybody.
If Lonzo, somebody brought up a conversation, and I dodged the Kentucky question, but I'm gonna come back to it. Lonzo Ball, if Lonzo Ball can get UCLA between him and TJ Leaf, if they get to the Final Four, does that raise his draft stock?
No, because I think he's projected number 2 right now.
Okay,
I don't think he's gonna go above Markelle Fultz.
Okay,
because Markelle Fultz isn't making the tournament no matter what he does.
Right, he's kind of in the Ben Simmons phase. Okay,
yeah, I'm with that because some of these stars coming out of high school are choosing like some unorthodox schools. You could say like not true blue bloods, like as you said, Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz.
Yep.
So they're projected like just not to make it into the tournament, but he's still been playing nice, playing well. And I think Lonzo Ball still going to be like a top 3 pick, number 2.
Okay. And I'm telling y'all now because we've talked about it, and I'm going to warn y'all. The high school projection between now, because I'm going to do some breakdowns of drafts for this coming draft, but next year's draft is going to be an intriguing run because of who you have coming out, and a lot of who are already talking one and done. All right, so my last question on this, and of course it's because we have to be biased while not being biased because we're Kentucky fans. Do you see Kentucky going all the way?
I can see them going all the way, depending on who they play. It depends. It's on matchups and how they're playing. Because earlier in the season, it didn't matter who they play. I felt because they were playing well. Like Malik Monk was doing well, shooting well. Like when he played against North Carolina, I think North Carolina can go far.
Yeah,
they have a good team overall.
Right.
Like they're big in depth, and Kentucky took them to the wire and beat them.
Yeah,
I think Kentucky has all the factors to make it far.
Yeah,
it just depends on matchups and how they're playing at that time.
True.
And De'Aaron Fox, if he's making the shots, if he's playing well, he could lead them. I feel like it depends on him. He's the leader of that team. I feel him and Isaiah Briscoe.
Yeah, because I know it's going to be tough to have happen, but them playing against Kansas again, I would like to see. I'm not gonna lie because I feel like they didn't prepare for Kansas. That's just my personal take on that.
I would agree. Yeah, that also set up their kind of a losing streak. So I believe they lost like 3 of the next 4 after that.
Because they lost some weird SEC games that I didn't understand. I think one of them I know they lost to Tennessee. What was it? I'm trying to remember. It was some SEC matches that I was like, why did we lose that game?
Yeah, and they had a couple close ones too, like to Georgia. Otherwise, they would have lost. They would have lost 4 in a row. So they had a little stretch. It looks like they're turning around a little bit, but we'll see with the SEC tournament, things of that nature.
Yeah, true.
I like the Pac-12 teams. Arizona. I like Oregon.
Pac-12.
And UCLA.
Yeah, see the Pac-12 is that underrated, under the radar line of teams because, like you said, Oregon can have a run. Like even though, I mean, that was last year.
They have upperclassmen.
Yeah, they're a lot because a lot of guys stayed, and that's honestly what got North Carolina far last year was because they had a lot of vets, you know. And it's odd to say in college basketball that there's such thing as a veteran.
But Kentucky shows that there are such things as veterans because their teams barely have juniors or seniors.
Yeah, if you get a junior or senior, you're like, why are you still here? What's going on? Like, you want to talk about this? Why are you still hanging around school? Are you doing something productive with your life, or what's going on? So speaking of veterans, and I segue into these so random because it just happens to be the way it is. Dimitri, you know the story about Jerry Saundusky, and how idiotic that story was with Penn State.
Yeah, I did hear about that. Like, as we said, we were talking about this a little bit earlier. Just like opens another wound because it was on the news for a while with Jerry Saundusky, his father, who had done some things, and over like 16 years, 10 victims before it finally came out, even though there had been reports of it since early 2000s, late 90s, and it just came out in like 2008, 2009.
Because everybody started to come clean as to what was going on. In Jeffrey's defense, though, and I'm not being petty, but I'm being fair, at least it was females. But still, they were minors, so that just makes it worse. He was convicted of 14 felony counts involving 2 girls. Now, this is a very detailed story, and I don't want to give too much. This is going to be a very graphical section, so hide your kids, hide your wife. You don't want them to know about any of this stuff, and if this is not the podcast you want to hear from this point on, I understand, but we'll see the explicit content without using profanity in so many words. He was arrested on February the 13th, and he was charged for the 2 minors. He detained 14 felony counts, which included solicitation of involuntary deviant sexual intercourse, 6 counts of unlawful contact with a minor, 2 counts each of solicitation to photograph or depict sexual acts, and sexual abuse of children and corruption.
So with him, at least it didn't take as long as it did for his father. It took 16 years with him. Right. It was 3 years, which is still, a couple years too long. Yeah. You could say. But at least somebody
nipped this in the bud early.
Yeah, definitely. I believe it was the daughter of his wife or his girlfriend. And she nipped it in the bud. She told her father, and they took it to the police, and it got started from there, investigated from there. And
because all it takes, and see, the dumb part is it's something as small as just text messages, like just to get the ball rolling, and it just plays everything the way it is. He is currently held on $200,000 bail, and it's so odd because, like I said, involving his dad, it was like he got a 30-year sentence, and I mean he was 68, so he's pretty much, in so many words, it was like they said it was like a life sentence. Yeah,
and I believe, I don't know if this is the case, but I believe the reason why his bail is $200,000 because his dad's bail was $100,000. Right. And his dad's case, I feel, was way worse.
Right. I think it's almost like they wanted to make this an example to just confirm, like, hey, don't be out here doing anything stupid because we do have ways of getting you to, and no point in trying to fight it. But I mean, it's just a graphic story where I just don't even know. And it's like I'm in a library talking about it. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. They show the link that I do have shared. Also, if you are into that type of information, it shows the criminal complaint documentation as well.
On to another subject.
Yeah, we left we kind of did what we call, as most people know, a dangle from last week's podcast regarding the infamous Kevin Durant versus Russell Westbrook. I got your Lakers story. That's in there.
Oakley.
Oh, Oakley, yeah, we got Oakley afterward because I think I'm gonna let you lead on the Oakley story. As a matter of fact, it's up to you. Do you want to do the Oakley story or you want to do the Warriors one? It's up to you. I can balance it out because either one of them is going to be interesting. Pick and choose.
Go ahead with the Warriors.
Okay. All right. So Kevin Durant made his first trip back to OKC since he made the infamous. Oh my gosh. When I say creativity of fans, I've never seen fans be that creative with activity and paraphernalia because it was already bad enough when he left. Just like LeBron, when he left Cleveland and went to Miami, they were burning his jerseys. They burned Kevin Durant's OKC jerseys, and they thought he was a traitor. And, he left his brother, he left his boy. That's messed up. Why you ain't tell me? And he felt like he was miscommunicated on what went on. You don't know what Kevin Durant was doing. And I think what you mentioned and what's relevant about it is he made the choice as a business decision. Anybody who does things when it comes to sports, it's a business decision. I actually talked to somebody else about this today because it was so much information put behind what he did, when in reality, he did what anybody else would do, and he made a choice. So, with the choice being put to the side, the Warriors made their choice to beat the living daylights out of the Thunder. They beat them by 16. Yeah, because I'm like, wait, math is failing me right now. They beat them by 16. The unique story about this, and I'm gonna say it how I love when they do this in sports. Russell Westbrook had 46 points. He had 11 turnovers. Kevin Durant only scored 34 points. Mind you, only. And he had and I think when we talked about this last week, and I want to make sure, and this isn't me trying to say like, oh, I told you so. I said Steph Curry was going to be the X Factor.
He did go off. He almost had a triple-double himself. He had no turnovers, which is rare for him. He's lackadaisical with the ball.
Oh, yeah.
Always, Mr. Globetrotter.
I call him, I almost want to call him Yo-Yo between him and, what's my man name? Kyrie Irving. They're both ball handlers they can handle the ball, but they handle it so reckless that it's like, whatever. They're not giving grief for it.
This game, it's funny how you said the turnovers that Westbrook averages. He actually averages 9 turnovers a game against the Warriors this season through 3 games.
In 3 games, and that's...
I feel like it's because he has to do so much against them. This game kind of proved it. Like last week, I thought it was going to be a close game.
Yeah.
Because I knew Westbrook was going to come out. This one actually ended up being the closest one out of the 3.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't very close if you watched the game. They had a comfortable lead throughout. There was a brief interaction in the third quarter.
Yeah, there were a few little interactions. Let's talk about these. I want which one you want to go into first? And
the one with when Westbrook they started to make a little bit of a comeback.
Right.
It was towards the end of the third quarter, when like mid third quarter. Westbrook like a half court started saying stuff to Durant,
and they just talking back and forth. Yeah,
I'm coming. That's what he kept saying to him.
And it's like, you gotta understand that's the respect factor. Like, just because you're not here doesn't mean that I'm not going to bring my best game. And he did.
But, he didn't have his boys. He didn't have anybody back in the bunk.
Except for Adams, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit. Roberson tried to get a little bit of ball, too. You see that little...
Yeah, the little battle they had. Excuse me. The Andre Robertson story is kind of funny to me because it tells me one thing. In the NBA, and you watch NBA in this era of basketball. I've watched the NBA during like 80s, creeping 90s type of basketball. Guys are so soft that they can't handle like that type of like some in back in the day basketball that would have been a fight easily on the court. Nowadays it's more okay if I hit them.
You can be suspended for half the season.
Right, and then I end up losing my Nike endorsement, things of that sort. So it's made out to be more than what it is when it doesn't have to be. I'm hoping I'm not getting pushed out of the room because I know I'm past my time, but I think I'm right. They all out there lollygagging. So if y'all hear background noise, just let it happen.
And you touched on this topic a little bit earlier on the beginning of this topic, the cupcake story with Durant.
Yes.
So the way that came out was Perkins, like a couple years ago when he was on the Thunder, when people were acting soft on the team, he would call them cupcake.
Right.
So then when Westbrook found out about the move that Durant made, he made a comment about him being the cupcake. So then everybody, if you watch the game, everybody in the stands had a cupcake t-shirt.
Yeah, they literally had that. And like I said, that's creative. Like, you don't get to see stuff of that sort whatsoever because it was unexpected. Like, I don't know. I truly didn't. I mean, I knew the game wasn't going to be close. I think because when we talked about it last time, I was like, if I said the Thunder was going to win, then I'm odd about saying it. But either way, it went the way it did. So.
What I thought was humorous was after the game, Draymond Green got a cupcake T-shirt, and Stephen Curry got a cupcake T-shirt too.
Right, just to be petty. Yeah, you always have to know that your petty mode has to be always ready.
Durant was okay with. They were okay with it's all in the front of the game.
Yeah, because
yelling at them. Yeah. Except there started being some comments that were being a little bit too personal and things of that nature that started attacking.
And the only tough part about that is, as athletes, and I'm not an athlete, but athletes are forced and taught to have tough skin. Yeah. Because there was a point when Cleveland played against Golden State, and somebody in the crowd yelled something. can't say it here in this facility, but it was a lady, and they were in Golden State. I think it may have been a Golden State, but it was an away game.
Yeah, I think it was Golden State.
Right, and literally the security guy was like, "Hey, watch your mouth," because it was very and for whatever reason, that was the one point somebody had a microphone.
Yeah,
I'm like, how? So I'm gonna let you have this one, and then I'll just kind of jump in.
Charles Oakley.
Yeah.
So if anybody doesn't know, Charles Oakley had an incident at Madison Square Garden, you could say.
Yeah.
I think we talked about it a little bit last week.
A little bit, yeah. We kind of just gave the whole, it was like he was shoving back and forth with him, with the security people, and then I think the security guys got let go. I don't know if we may not have brought up that part of it, but the security, one of their main guys was let go by James Dolan.
The head of security was let go by James Dolan.
Yeah.
And they had a meeting this week, like a little conference with Charles Oakley, James Dolan, and the commissioner of the NBA.
Right.
Sat down with them, and then they had on the conference call Michael Jordan, who's a close friend of Charles Oakley, to kind of talk on behalf of him, kind of calm it down.
Yeah.
But then, so after it, they said that James Dolan apologized to Charles Oakley. And, of course, the ban has been lifted since. That came out, the ban has been lifted. Charles Oakley saying that he's not going to go back. He doesn't want to go back.
Okay.
A couple days later after the meeting, it came out that he says that he was pushed out of the meeting. So it's kind of hard to know what his end game with it is. If he wants, because before he was stating that he wanted to be welcomed back, he wants to be friends and whatnot. And if someone's opening their arms to you, generally you'd open your arms back.
Yeah, you're supposed to accept it, especially when you knew it was like a friction-based situation, because in so many words, it was like so much tension in that whole scenario that it shouldn't have gotten to that point.
And they never even met before that interaction too.
Right, because the fact, and I think the only thing that I get out of it that I'm still stuck on is the fact that they played it as, well, you're sitting here, them playing the fact of looking at it as Oakley was drunk or he needs to stop, he needs to sober up and all this, and I'm like, do you know how many drunk folks go to sporting events and act way worse, and y'all let them stay right in the venue?
So I heard there was actually a video that they didn't release. Someone got on camera what was happening before that led up to that point. So I guess he may have been yelling at him or saying some things towards him. But I still say the First Amendment is freedom of speech. Yeah. So you pay for your ticket, you're allowed to be there as long as you know.
True. TMZ, if you have that video, please share. Shameless plug. So yeah, that's I don't.
I think it kind of started off like as a W4.
It was a major win for him when he rebuilt the rapport, but then to go back and say I don't accept, I'd rather just leave y'all alone. It's like, dude, you didn't learn anything.
And did you hear about what Draymond Green said about the subject?
I feel like I saw this story, and it's like a lot of athletes have been giving input about this.
He said that he has a slave master's mentality or something like that, a slave owner's mentality. Okay. And then he kind of defended his comment on that. And then Charles Oakley also said that James Dolan's kind of like Donald Sterling, which I didn't really see the comparison.
Yeah, because those are two totally different stories. So we talked about this pre-podcast. I feel as though Sterling, what Donald Sterling did with the Clippers was just blatantly ignorant, point blank, plain and simple. This thing with Dolan, if it's perceived as that, then something wouldn't add up. It's all just going to come down to whether information is out there to prove what you're claiming, which is not there. And I mean, you're just making it off of just a personal allegation because you don't like them. Speaking of likes, we have nearly about little over 6 minutes left, and this is going to be because I was going to do the Ibaka story. But we'll save the Ibaka story for next week because I think what I'm going to do is probably do trade session in that podcast. This is where I have to eat my words because a couple of months ago, Dimitri and I talked about basketball. And Dimitri was very excited because being from Cali, he is a true Lakers fan. And I have no problem with that because you go with your team, you stay with your squad, you roll through the punches. At the time, he thought it was good for me. And I can go back, because I have my notebook, I can go back and remember when the conversation came up about, hey, you should talk about the Lakers on the podcast. I was like, all right, sure, I'll talk about it, no problem. Did that episode, and supposedly I cursed the Lakers. Because since then, Let me make sure I got this right, because they are currently 19-39. So they're 9-20. 9-29. Yes, yeah, because it was 10. They were 10-10. They were at 500. Now they're .328, and they're right on the cusp of preparing for the draft. And they need to make sure they get a high pick so they don't lose it based on trades and prospects. So since we got our last little 5 minutes, I'm gonna let you take the floor, and I'll be in my apologetic state once you finish.
No, I like that you stated we're gonna be preparing for the draft. That's a good way to put it, because at this point, like in the beginning of the season when we were 10-10, we were at the 8 seed, so it was possible. Right. I was thinking maybe our young core had probably stepped up a little bit. It seems that they haven't matured fully yet. Right. So right now, we're preparing for the draft, you could say, because if the Lakers don't end up with a third pick in the NBA draft, they lose their pick to the 76ers. If you don't know. Yeah. So it's top 3 protected. Right now, they're tied for second with the most losses in the NBA. So they're on track for it. However, it's a lottery, so it's wherever the ping pong ball falls. At this point, they're talking about possibly trading maybe Lou Williams, Nick Young, possibly adding Timothy Mozgov or Luol Deng on one of those. Just because that was terrible what they did last year in free agency. Right. When they picked up Luol Deng and Timothy Mozgov. Yeah,
because they was getting them on the end of their road. It was kind of tough.
And they're not even starting anymore. They took them out the starting lineup. I believe it was a couple weeks ago. Yeah. So it's just been a rough year. Nobody in the young core is averaging over 15 points.
So I have a question, because I love doing this, because this is where it's like it's random, it's improv, but it's still you know sports, so I can talk to you about this. D'Angelo Russell, Julius Randle, or Brandon Ingram. Who do you keep? Who do you let go? Between those 3, who would you keep and who would you let go?
Between those 3, the first person I would let go would have to be Julius Randle. He's a little bit undersized for his position. Right. He doesn't play much defense for his position. He has one of the worst plus minuses in the NBA, actually. Okay. So I feel like you would want to let him go, especially since there's still people with interest in him, since he was a lottery pick just 2 years ago.
Because he's still in his rookie contract.
D'Angelo Russell shows glimpses of possibly being an all-star someday if he can get his head right and be more consistent. Even if you watch the Verizon Star Challenge the other day.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that. We're just FYI, we'll talk about that next week, because it's going to be an all-star section, just all-star. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's kind of an example when he had a step back 3, and then he also had an isolation shot where he airballed it. That's kind of his consistency where that happens. And then Brandon Ingram, I don't like to judge anybody off of their rookie season, because it could go anyway. Like Kobe Bryant had a rough rookie season, so it could go either way. So with him, the jury's still out. I expect a little bit more out of Russell this year, since it's his second season.
Yeah. Russell, I feel like it's an odd story, because I've said this to you before, because we talked about a prospect coming in, Jalen Haynes. Him and Ingram to me are like almost the same size as far as just skin and bones. But for their size, it's tough for them to make a mark in the league. But then the other side of it is Ingram can work on building that muscle over time. Randall has had 3 years. One of his years he didn't play long. I get that, but even still, you should be able to come in, and the dominance you had in high school and for the most part in college should have carried over. And D'Angelo Russell, just like you said, the consistency is a killer. But I truly think if between those 3, like you said, I would probably go with you. But I would probably say, if my first instinct, Russell, I would get rid of D'Angelo Russell. Right.
You'd probably get more back for him.
Right.
So I say either one of
either
those
one.
2.
I mean, either way, you're just trying to make a move to just do what's best to move forward and just kind of sever your ties. But of course, you got to do it when time is right. And I'm not getting rid of Dimitri, but I got the last minute, so I wanted you to. I knew that was as I said, my bad. I'll keep the Lakers off my podcast. If we talk about them, hopefully it'll be in a more uplifting spotlight. Hopefully they can get Lonzo Ball. So we'll see. If they're able to get him. Are there any closing thoughts you have before we end this podcast?
I wanted to ask you on your projections for the dunk contest. Who do you think's going to win?
Ooh, good question. I got to put that in real quick. So my dunk contestant winner is going to be Aaron Gordon.
just to let y'all know, DeAndre Jordan, Glenn Robinson III, and Derrick Jones from the Suns.
Yes. Who you got?
I got Aaron Gordon too. I feel like he's the favorite. So.
Okay. All right. So those are our picks. We're going to remind y'all about those. We'll have those in the next week's episode. And we're going to talk about all All-Star, a little bit of randomness. And until next time, Brate Podcast signing out. Peace.